You think you know how ride sharing works? Think again. From ghost riders to late night calls that still haunt me. Here's what really happens behind the dispatch screen and the bizarre rules that keep it running. Most people imagine rideshare dispatchers as bored office drones slouched in front of glowing monitors, sipping lukewarm coffee and clicking through complaints. They're not entirely wrong, but what they don't realize is that the night shift is different. It's not just drunk partygoers and lost tourists. There's something else out there after midnight. Something watching, listening, waiting to hitch a ride. I work out of a windowless building tucked between a closed mattress outlet and an adult novelty store. It always smells faintly of bleach, like someone's constantly trying to scrub something clean that never really goes away. My workstation is in the corner, 2 monitors, a headset, and a laminated card taped to the desk that reads, "Follow the rules." They follow you back. I thought that was a joke at first, a way to mess with a new guy. But the longer I stayed, the more I realized that line was a warning, not a punchline. I started this job 3 months ago. Night shifts, midnight to 8 a.m. You'd think the city would be asleep during those hours, but the real heartbeat of it pulses stronger in the dark. The streets hum with energy, some of it desperate, some of it just wrong. The night manager, Vince, is a pale, chain-smoking relic of the early internet era. The first night I showed up, he handed me a packet of onboarding materials stapled together with a greasy thumbprint on the back. Standard company stuff, NDAs, emergency protocols, shift schedules. But between those, slipped like an unwanted truth, was another page. Midnight dispatcher rules, strict. There were 5 of them, handwritten in blue ink. 1. Don't touch the surge. 2. Never accept rides manually after 3:33 a.m. 3. If a rider sends a message that repeats 3 times, forward it to Vince immediately. 4. Do not respond to drivers flagged as lost in transit. 5. If your screen glitches and shows all green, power down and leave the building. Don't look back. I laughed when I read them. Vince didn't. Think they're dumb? He asked, his cigarette trailing smoke like a finger pointing to the exit. They seem unusual, I said, trying to play it cool. He tapped Rule 1. Start by following this one. Everything else will make sense eventually. Or it won't. Either way, you'll sleep better. I didn't sleep better. Not after the first week. The surge is what we call peak fare pricing. When ride demand spikes in a given area, and the app raises prices to match. We're told not to manually adjust it. Ever. That's Rule 1. I thought it was just to prevent favoritism or fraud. But one night, 2 weeks in, I got curious. It was 2:08 a.m. Rain hammered the city. A cluster of ride requests blew up in the Old Market District. An odd place to surge, especially when most of the clubs were already closed. I hovered my mouse over the area. The heat map glowed red like a fresh wound. The rides just kept coming, all from the same spot. No names, no destinations, just blank profiles with profile photos that didn't load. I clicked one. The screen immediately went black, then green, all green. Every street, every alley, every building lit up on the grid, like a radioactive cityscape. Then a voice came through my headset. Not a driver, not a rider. It was my own voice. Don't touch the surge, it whispered. The screen snapped back to normal. The surge vanished. My hand was shaking on the mouse. I didn't log it. I didn't tell Vince. I just marked the time in my notes. 2:08 a.m. Surge anomaly, voice echo self. I try to chalk it up to sleep deprivation, maybe a bug in the software. but I couldn't forget how perfectly it mimicked me. The tone, the inflection, even the slight rasp in my voice from that week's cold. It was me. Things didn't get better. A few nights later, a ride request came in from someone named Harold. Profile created 12 seconds earlier. He pinged a driver just a few blocks from him, so I left it alone. Normal activity. But as the car reached the pickup point, I noticed something strange. The driver's location kept drifting. Not like he was moving, but like the system couldn't pin him down. Then, suddenly it stabilized. The driver messaged me. "He's not here. No one's here. It's just fog." Then nothing. His vehicle icon stopped moving entirely. I tried pinging him. Nothing. I called his phone. Straight to voicemail. I checked his last GPS ping. It was in the middle of the river. His profile was automatically flagged. Lost in transit. I hovered over the file, ready to escalate it. But Rule 4 echoed in my head. Do not respond to drivers flagged as lost in transit. I closed the file. My hands were cold. 2 hours later, the same ride request came in again. Same name. Same location. But this time, there was no driver nearby. And I wasn't going to override this system. That night, Vince came in early. He rarely does. He looked at my screen, saw the flagged request, and gave a slow nod. "Ghost riders are getting impatient," he muttered. "What do you mean, ghost riders?" He didn't answer, just tapped the laminated card on my desk again. "Follow the rules. They follow you back." He left me a cup of gas station coffee that tasted like it had been brewed in an ashtray. I drank it anyway. The rest of the night passed without incident. But something had shifted. I started noticing patterns. Riders who always requested at the same time every night, from the same corner under the freeway overpass. But no driver ever completed the trip. Their requests timed out, vanished, and reappeared the next night. A driver messaged me once, asking if it was some kind of test. "Why do you keep sending me to that place? It smells like burning hair." I hadn't assigned him the trip. The system did, but I didn't reply. Instead, I logged it and marked it. Repeat anomaly. Overpass phantom. The longer I worked, the more I realized that the rideshare system at night wasn't just a network. It was a living thing. It learned, it watched, and it punished. I'd made the mistake of questioning Rule 1. I wouldn't do that again. But other rules would be tested soon, especially Rule 2. Because last night at 3:34 a.m., a ride request came through. Blank profile, no name, just a message. "I'm ready now." It repeated. Then again. 3 times. I stared at it. My hand hovered over the mouse. Then my screen glitched. Briefly. For less than a second. Everything turned green. And I swear, I heard my own voice whisper again. This time it was laughing. My life behind the dispatch screen was about learning the rules. Then what came next was understanding what happens when they're broken. Rules, I realized, weren't guidelines here. They were locks. Fragile ones. And some nights, something on the other side rattled them just hard enough. I had barely recovered from the glitch. The moment my screen turned that sickly, unnatural green, when I began to notice how often the rules weren't just warnings. They were restraints. And the restraints were slipping. Let's talk about Rule 2. Never accept rides manually after 3:33 a.m. Simple enough. At first, I assumed it was for my protection. Fatigue errors, sleep hallucinations, the kind of mistakes that ruin driver reputations and tank company ratings. But 3:33 a.m. was more than just a time. It was a threshold. 3 nights ago, I was dead tired. The hours had dragged, one coffee after another, and I was zoning out on the screen. That's when a ride request came through. Nothing unusual except for one thing. The timer. Ride requests normally expire in 20 seconds. This one ticked upward. 0:21, 0:30, 0:44. No driver was picking it up. I could have ignored it. Should have. But I was exhausted and curious and, frankly, numb. So I broke the rule. I manually accepted the ride and dispatched it to the nearest available driver. One I trusted, Carlos, someone I'd chatted with many times on overnight shifts. A good guy. Smart, too. He'd even once helped a lost rider get home on foot when the app crashed during a thunderstorm. I figured if anyone could handle weird, it was him. The request was for a pickup outside a closed piano bar in the theater district. Carlos accepted it instantly. A few seconds later, he messaged, "Rider's already inside. Just got in." Didn't say anything. That was odd, but not impossible. Sometimes riders jump in before confirming, especially in the rain. Except it wasn't raining. I asked Carlos to confirm a name. App says Eleanor, but she didn't say a word. No phone. Wearing red dress. Hair's wrong. What do you mean wrong? I replied. Too long. Moves when she doesn't. The icon on the map showed Carlos heading downtown. Then it stopped in the middle of a tunnel beneath the city. The message icon blinked. She's humming. Can't hear the engine anymore. Carlos. Respond. No answer. Carlos, are you okay? Please confirm. The car icon vanished. I reported it to Vince. He didn't say anything for a long time. Just lit a cigarette, stared at the blank monitor next to mine, then muttered, "Manual overrides or invitations. If you open the door, don't be surprised when something walks through." Carlos hasn't shown up since. Not in person. Not in the system. But every night, around the same time, I get a ping. A car. Same model. Same plate. No driver photo. Just a message. Humming. It expires after 20 seconds. But the humming? I swear I can hear it faintly when it pings, like it leaks out from my speakers. I started turning my headset off at 3:30 a.m. every night. That's when I began looking harder at the other rules, especially Rule 3. If a rider sends a message that repeats 3 times, forward it to Vince. Immediately. A few nights later, I was halfway through a terrible microwave burrito when a new rider message appeared. "Help. Please." Then again. "Help. Please." And a third time. "Help. Please." I froze. I hover my cursor over the chat window. The rider had no name, no photo, and no ride history. I did what I was told. Forwarded the message thread to Vince's inbox. Marked it red flag priority. No response. 15 minutes later, a Blacktown car pinged on the system near the warehouse district where the original request had originated. Except the driver wasn't listed. The car wasn't company issued. It wasn't even recent. The system tagged it as archived. When I tried to open the ride log, a system error flashed on my screen. Access denied. Classified // code. Black map. Then all the lights in the office flickered. When they returned, I was alone. My co-workers, usually scattered across the room at other desks, were gone. No footsteps. No exits. Just empty chairs and cold monitors. That lasted for 3 minutes. Then the power surged again, and everything returned. No one noticed they had been gone. Except me. The next night, I asked Vince about the phrase black map. He didn't flinch. "It's not a map," he said. "It's a layer. The city has layers, like old wallpaper. The system can't always tell which one it's reading from." He looked at me like he was deciding whether to say more, then walked away. That's when I started cataloging what I called phantom rides. These rides show up with all the right information: pick-up and drop-off locations, rider notes, even sometimes a profile photo, but something about them is wrong. One came through at 4:12 a.m., requesting a ride from the rooftop of an apartment complex that burned down in 2003. I checked satellite maps. It was still a ruin. No roof, no floor, just charred beams like bones under moonlight. The request said, "Need to get out before sunrise." No driver picked it up. The request kept reappearing every night for the rest of the week. Same message, same time. Another was simpler, just a rider pinging from the edge of the river with the note, "She's in the water. Don't look at her face." That one I flagged without hesitation. But what unnerved me most wasn't the requests. It was the system behavior itself. Sometimes, for no reason, the driver list will reorder itself, showing names of people who haven't worked for years. Once I saw a list of drivers whose accounts were terminated during the early launch years, some of who were dead. One driver profile caught my eye. Name, Max C. I remembered him. He had a reputation for being calm, steady. He used to bring in food for the dispatchers on holidays. Vanished 2 years ago. But there he was. Active. Live. On the map. I pinged his car. "Max." No response. But the car started moving. Slowly. Toward my office. The address didn't even exist on the app. It was filtered out, as we weren't supposed to log rides from our actual location. But he was coming. Right to our building. I killed the system. Shut it down completely. When I booted it back up 20 minutes later, his icon was gone. I didn't tell Vince that time. I didn't want him to say you invited it. Instead, I poured myself another stale cup of coffee and stared at the blinking cursor on my screen. That's when I remember the fifth ride from that night. It hadn't looked like much, just a pickup at an underpass in the industrial district. But the rider's name? It was mine. My full name. First, middle, and last. Capitalized perfectly. I clicked on it, heart pounding, and there was a message waiting. Just one. "Don't be late. You're almost out of time." The timestamp was 3:33 a.m., and the icon was still pulsing, waiting for manual override. You'd think the job is simple. Click, assign, monitor. But some nights, it's like sitting in a confession booth, and the screen becomes a window into people's souls. The longer I stared at it, the more I understood. Behind every blinking request, there was a story, and some of those stories bled through the code. Others refused to die at all. I had just finished reviewing the phantom request with my name attached, still frozen in the system, still waiting, when a new chat message popped in. The rider's name was simply Ames. No last name, just the letter A as a profile pic. "Hey, just need someone to talk to." The request had already been assigned to a driver named Olivia, a newcomer to the late-night circuit. Bright, eager, too eager. I watched her icon move toward the pickup near an old church on Lexington, a known dead zone for cell signals. As she got close, Ames started messaging again. "Do you believe people can unburden themselves to strangers?" I didn't answer. We aren't supposed to chat directly with riders unless it's logistical. But something about that phrasing stopped me cold. Olivia's vehicle arrived at the location. She paused for nearly 5 minutes. I was about to ping her when another message came through. "He's in the back now. Smells like damp leaves. Keeps whispering confess." I felt my chest tighten. I messaged Olivia directly. "What do you mean he's in the back? Was it a group ride?" No reply. Then the next message came. From Ames. Why did I do it? I only meant to scare her. Another. The tub filled up so fast. I thought she'd float. I slammed the chat closed. Flagged it. Escalated. Everything I was supposed to do. I watched Olivia's car crawl toward the river. Her signal flickered in and out, her icon vanishing every few seconds. Finally, she messaged me. Passenger gone. Door open by itself. There's water in the back seat. She sent a photo. I wish she hadn't. The leather interior was soaked. Not rain. Not spilled water. Dark, reddish fluid pooled in the grooves. And handprints. Small. Childlike. Pressed against the window. I urged her to pull over and wait for assistance. I logged everything. Vince later reviewed the footage. He didn't speak for a long time after watching it. Then he just said, "That's what happens when confessions aren't heard by priests anymore. They ride." That was the first of what I now call late-night confessionals. But it wasn't the last. The next came exactly 7 nights later. The request came through at 1:12 a.m. A writer named Dennis. Profile image, a completely black square. Pickup location, the edge of a parking lot near an abandoned strip mall. Destination, anywhere. He'd been assigned to one of our most dependable drivers, Jeremy. I like Jeremy. He had this calm, collected energy, like nothing fazed him. A retired paramedic. He said driving at night was peaceful compared to the chaos of the ER. Jeremy picked up Dennis without issue. 10 minutes later, his car stopped moving on the map. He messaged me. He asked me to drive until he fell asleep. Said he doesn't dream unless the car is in motion. Did he give a destination? Just said to keep going. Keep me posted. Will do. Weird guy, but polite. I relaxed a bit. Sometimes people just need to escape. But then, 30 minutes later, I got another ping. He's not asleep anymore. What's wrong? He just turned and said, "You're not the one who dies tonight." Then nothing. The car remained on the grid for hours, idling somewhere between city sectors the system couldn't label. Eventually, the vehicle went dark. Jeremy was found the next morning, sitting in the driver's seat of his locked car, staring straight ahead. The doors had fused shut from the inside. He was alive, but catatonic. The paramedics said he was whispering the same word over and over again. Confess. 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 The ride request reappeared on the system 2 nights later. Same profile. Same black square. Same destination. Anywhere. I blacklisted it myself. But somehow, it always gets reassigned. But not all stories behind the screen end in terror. Some are stranger, mysterious, sure, but laced with a kind of quiet awe. Like the time we had what I now call the unexpected hero. It was a brutally cold Thursday. The kind of night where even the wind sounds brittle. A ride came in from a place that no longer existed. A bus terminal that was demolished years ago. The system shouldn't have allowed it, but it did. The rider's name was Beth. Her profile showed she was in her 60s, wearing a bright blue scarf in the photo. The driver was Alan, a part-timer who usually did evening runs and picked up extra shifts when drivers called off. He accepted without question. When Alan arrived, Beth was standing exactly where the terminal used to be. He later told me she looked real, tangible, frost on her hair, shopping bags in hand. She said, "Please hurry. They don't like when I linger." Alan didn't ask questions. He just nodded and let her in. He told me he didn't even check the destination, just drove. As they passed through the industrial district, Beth suddenly leaned forward and whispered, "You should turn right, not left. There's a van waiting with no windows." Alan hesitated, but something in her tone made him obey. He turned right instead. At that exact intersection, A windowless white van ran a red light. If Alan had turned left, it would have T-boned him straight into the pillar. He told me he pulled over, shaking. Beth was gone. No door open alert. No GPS record of stop. Just gone. When he checked the back seat, her scarf was folded neatly on the cushion. Bright blue. We checked the ride logs. Her request had been manually entered into the system by an account that didn't exist. The terminal it originated from was officially decommissioned in 2017. We never saw Beth again, but Alan kept the scarf in his glove box. Said he feels safer with it. Then there are the nights I call the city after dark. Nights where the ride requests don't make sense. Not because of the location or the rider, but because of what the drivers describe afterward. One night, 4 different drivers reported picking up the same woman, same clothes, same perfume, same red lipstick, within the same hour, in different parts of the city. Every time, she requested the same destination, home, but none of them made it. Each route ended the same way. GPS failure, app crash, driver confusion. Then, minutes later, the rider was just gone. One driver, Malik, said she vanished mid-turn. 1 second she was buckling her seatbelt. The next, the seat was empty, but the scent of roses lingered. I asked him what she said before she disappeared. He hesitated, then replied. She leaned in and said, "You brought me close enough. Thank you." All of these stories stack on top of one another like sediment, compacting into something dense and heavy in my brain. Some nights, I wonder if I'm the only one who truly remembers them, or if they're being scrubbed from memory, piece by piece. There's no section in the company handbook for this. No hotline for paranormal ride anomalies. Just a blinking cursor, a quiet hum of servers, and the steady accumulation of stories that refuse to be silenced. And each one brings me a little closer to that final ride request. The one with my name. Still pulsing. Still waiting. And last night, for the first time, the system auto-assigned it. To me. You wouldn't think a job like this comes with perks. But that's the twisted thing about working the night shift. You learn to find comfort in the small, strange gifts the darkness offers. They keep you tethered, keep you sane, or, at least, they let you pretend you're still sane. But eventually you start to question where these perks come from and what they're asking in return. The first so-called perk I noticed was the coffee. It started appearing in the break room one night. A full pot, perfectly hot, dark and rich, sitting on the old counter just before my shift started. No one brewed it. Vince didn't. I certainly hadn't. I figured maybe the day's shift left it out, but it kept happening. Every night. Same time. Same pot. Same smell. Nutty. Smoky. Almost nostalgic, like something your grandmother would make on a camping trip. One night, I took a sip and felt an instant warmth spread through me. Not just physical warmth, but a clarity. Like everything that had been foggy in my mind, every creeping doubt, every buried fear, just evaporated. I saw the screen sharper, heard the pings clearer, even predicted dispatch reroutes before the system made them. I was flying. But I also noticed something else. Whenever I drank that coffee, the green screen incident stopped. The whispering paused. The ghost riders disappeared for a few hours. The chaos slept. It became routine. I pour a cup, start my shift, and for a few hours, things felt normal. Safe even. Then, one night I forgot to drink it. Within 20 minutes, I got hit with 5 back-to-back Phantom ride requests. 2 from drivers marked deceased, 1 from a location that didn't exist on any map, and 2 others with destination tags that just read, "They're waiting." My hands were trembling. I rushed to the break room. The pot was already there, steaming gently as if it had been expecting me. I drank without question. Everything went quiet. The next morning, I finally asked Vince, "You ever notice the coffee just shows up?" He didn't even look up from his tablet. "Just drink it. Don't ask. It's the building's way of saying thank you." The building's way? That should have been my cue to dig deeper. But I didn't. Because that night, I noticed something even more unnerving. The unexpected connections. I started getting messages from dispatchers I didn't know. People not on our local team. Some claimed to be from sister cities. Others didn't say where they were from at all. Just usernames like Night Echo 03 or Frame Lag or Waiters for Still Typing. One night, Waiters for Still Typing messaged me. Green screen showed up again. "What did you do to stop it?" I typed back, "I drink the coffee." A pause. "We don't get coffee." Then another message. Seconds later, "They made us drink something else." It didn't help. It made it worse. That was the last I ever heard from Wade. I checked the internal directory. No one by that name. No open chat log. The entire conversation deleted itself after my shift ended. But some connections weren't as subtle. There was a guy named Mikey who worked dispatch across town. He used to pop in on weekends, say hi, swap stories about weird passengers. He had this laugh like a busted speaker, raspy, contagious, always a little too loud. Then one day, he stopped showing up. I assumed he'd quit or transferred. But one night, I got a ride ping from his old neighborhood. The rider's name? Michael. Destination? The old dispatch. That's what we called the backup facility we shut down after the server fire 2 years ago. The place had been gutted. Black mold. Collapsing roof. Off the grid. I flagged it. Declined it. But the system kept reassigning it. Again. And again. Finally, I watched as a driver picked it up. A rookie named Jamie who hadn't been warned about our internal red zones. I messaged her as fast as I could. "Jamie, cancel the ride. It's a bad request." She didn't respond. I watched her icon drive all the way to the old dispatch. Then it stopped. Stayed idle for exactly 6 minutes. Then a message appeared. "He says the coffee's stronger here." I ran to the back office. Vince was asleep in his chair. I shook him awake, told him what happened. He just stared at me, bleary-eyed, and said, "They always return where they brewed their first pot." Then he rolled over and went back to sleep. That brings me to something else. Something more subtle, more personal. The city's hidden gems. Working the night shift gives you a view of the city no one else gets. You start seeing the cracks in the concrete, the alleys that shift slightly in width every time you pass, the bus stops with no signage that still have people waiting at them. I once routed a ride that detoured through a shortcut to save time, only to find the app rerouting itself again and again, trying to avoid that street. I overrode it once just to see what happened. The driver entered the street. The GPS froze. The car icon jittered like it was having a seizure on the screen. Then a message came through. "This isn't a shortcut. It's a holding pattern." I watched as the icon looped. The driver's ETA never changed. Just circled. Spiraled. After 10 minutes, he messaged again. I see myself on every corner. Watching. Every version of me is older. I tried to cancel the ride manually. The system wouldn't let me. Eventually, the signal dropped entirely. The car vanished from the grid. When I checked the timestamp on the ride later, it was labeled Archive, Hidden Route // access granted. Granted to who? I started testing small things after that, tracking repeat ride requests that kept returning to the same obscure, forgotten corners of the city. A locked gate behind the zoo that buzzed open every night at 2:07. A bridge that only appears in the app during foggy nights. A restaurant that never shows up on Google, but always has one rider waiting to be picked up in a yellow raincoat, humming My Bonnie Lies over the ocean. Drivers who take those rides, most don't report anything strange, but they don't come back the same either. One of them, Travis, emailed me 2 nights after a fog route. His message was just a single sentence. I remember the stars being louder. That was it. He quit the next day. So yes, there are perks. Free coffee, connections, hidden places. But nothing is ever free. Every reward I've been given on this job came wrapped in silence, in flickering lights, in invisible strings tightening around me. And last night, the coffee pot was full, but the liquid inside was pitch black. No steam. Ice cold. The smell wasn't nutty or comforting. It smelled like river mud and singed hair. I didn't drink it. Now, my monitor won't stop flickering. All my driver icons are gone. All except one. Me. Still en route. Destination. Unknown. And the message under my name. Your ride is waiting. Estimated arrival. 3:33 a.m. There's a moment during every night shift when the city itself seems to stop breathing. The traffic slows. The sirens die down. Even the flickering street lights hold still. It's that eerie hour before sunrise, where time thickens and refuses to pass. I used to find peace in those moments. Not anymore. Now I dread them. Because lately, in those seconds of stillness, I hear something moving beneath the silence. The ride request with my name on it was still active, taunting me from the top of the queue. My full name, all caps. No profile picture. No origin point. Just a glowing pulse on the system's map. A heartbeating code. Your ride is waiting. The timer had been counting up for days. Every night it returned, more aggressive. I tried declining it. The system overrode me. I tried rerouting it. It snapped back in place. Then, last night, it assigned me. Not a driver. Me. No one knew what that meant. Not even Vince. And that terrified me more than anything. He just stared at the screen when I showed him, lit a cigarette with trembling fingers and whispered, "It's never picked a dispatcher before." That was the last time I saw him. He left before the shift ended. Said he needed fresh air. Never came back. The system still shows him active, somewhere downtown. But his phone rings unanswered. His car hasn't moved. And his ride status? In transit. Estimated return. Unknown. So I was alone when it happened. 3:32 a.m. The system buzzed. Every screen in the office dimmed except mine. A single message blinked on my monitor. Your ride is outside. There was no icon. No map location. Just those words, repeating over and over. My headset crackled. Then, for the first time in weeks, the voice returned. My voice, but slower, warped, like someone imitating me through water. Come outside. Time to complete the loop. The fluorescent lights above me sputtered. The dispatch board wiped itself clean. No drivers. No riders. Just a static pulse. I stood up, heart pounding. I knew I shouldn't go. Rule 5 had always been clear. If your screen glitches and shows all green, power down and leave the building. Don't look back. But this wasn't green. This was worse. This was me. I moved toward the door. Every step felt heavier, like something unseen was pushing against me. The hallway was darker than usual. Too dark, as if the building itself had decided to snuff out the light. I reached the front entrance. Frost had spread across the glass from the inside, spiderwebbing out like veins. Beyond it, a black town car sat idling at the curb. Engine off. No headlights. Just waiting. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A notification from the dispatcher app. Ride confirmed. Status beginning. I looked down. My feet weren't on the office tile anymore. They were on pavement. Wet. Cold. I never opened the door. The street was empty except for the car. No wind. No sound. I was the only thing moving. The driver's side door opened, but no one got out. I heard the sound of leather shifting inside. Breathing. I tried to step back. The door behind me was gone. Only the car remained. I approached. Slowly. Every instinct screamed to run, but my body felt disconnected, like the signal from my brain was being delayed by something else. Like I wasn't just walking, but being walked. The back door opened on its own. I looked inside. The seats were empty, but the interior was lined with mirrors. Every surface, windows, ceiling, doors, covered in reflective glass. And in each one, a different version of me stared back. Older, younger, burned, eyeless. One wore my headset. One had blood on his collar. One was laughing without sound. Then all of them moved at once, pointing at the seat. I stepped in. As soon as I sat, the doors shut. The mirrors went black. Then nothing. No engine hum. No forward motion. No sound. I wasn't in a car anymore. I was in a void. Black. Endless. But still aware of myself. Of my body. My thoughts. A soft voice echoed around me. Not mine. Not Vince's. Something older. You monitor the lines. You heard their cries. You cataloged the forgotten. Now you understand the cost. I couldn't speak. Dispatchers are watchers. But every watcher is eventually seen. Then, one by one, I saw the stories again, played out across invisible screens. Carlos disappearing into the tunnel. Olivia and the damp childlike handprints. Jeremy's whispering breakdown. Beth's scarf left behind. Mikey's coffee. Alan's detour. Even Vince. Alone in the dark somewhere. And then I saw me, sitting at my station, a hollow shell, still answering pings, eyes vacant, mouth slightly open. The voice whispered again. You drank the brew. You heard the hum. You followed the pulses. And now, you dispatch from below. I screamed. No sound came out. The void vanished. I was back in my seat at the dispatch center. The coffee pot was full. The monitors blinked. New rides had been queued. Dozens of them. But all of them had one destination. Dispatch. And each request. The riders were me. My name. Over and over again. Different faces. Different mirrors. All asking to come home. Now, every night I assign them. I don't know where they're really going. I don't know if they ever return. I just know the shift never ends. The night never sleeps. And neither do I. So if you ever get into a ride late at night, and the driver doesn't speak, if the windows seem to reflect more than they should, if the air smells like burned coffee and river water, ask your dispatcher where the request came from. And if they hesitate, don't look in the rearview mirror. Because sometimes it's not a ride. Sometimes it's a return. And I'll be the one sending it.